Call to order. Let's all stand for the invocation.
Dear Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the gifts you bestowed on us. We realize the job that we have, trying to free our community from our senses. Lord, it's out of us, give us wisdom as we make those decisions. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Lewis, Mr. McGee,
Here.
Mr. Williams, Mr. Carroll.
Here.
Mr. Patel.
Here.
Mr. Morgan,
Here.
and Mr. Cowden.
First, we'll start off with our active items. Which will start off with definitely presentation of Kevin Murphy of Ryan in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
As you mentioned, we're with myself, Scott, and Allison are with Ryan LLC. We're Yes, well, as I mentioned, we're with a company called Ryan LLC. I actually started in 2008 with them, and we're only 400 people at the time. We've grown to over 4,000 tax consultants and other professionals throughout not only the country, but globally. We have offices in Baton Rouge and New Orleans. Scott is from the New Orleans office, Allison's in our Baton Rouge office, and Baton Rouge as well. And really, what we do as a firm is we really try to liberate our clients from the burden of being overtaxed, bringing them their capital to invest. I really thought this was interesting. We're with the credits and incentives practice. As I mentioned, we're tax consulting firms. We handle all types of tax. But I really thought the top statistics to be really interesting. 50% of credits and incentives go unclaimed every year. And that's, I think, a combination of two things. People not knowing about the programs at all, so they don't apply for them. And then also they don't maximize the benefit allowed throughout the program. Sharon Roberts is our practice leader. She runs the entire credits and incentives practice nationwide for our firm. She's actually located in the Baton Rouge office, so she's an excellent resource just with her years of experience in the field. And Allison's going to talk about the case study that we're going to do, which is basically what we're all under.
I know. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having us with you today. I'm Allison Saunders. I'm a Prime Credit Season Specialist in the field of historic tax credit. And so what we really wanted to do was to take the opportunity today to kind of inform you about the credits and incentives that may be available for redevelopment and business opportunities in your community. As Kevin mentioned, we are a global tax consulting firm, and we really are dedicated to our mission of freeing people from the burden of overtaxation. And by leaving 50% of those credits on the table, we really see the benefit in services like ours and having people be free from that burden. And so we decided today to kind of explore a case study. We know the Weiss and Goldring building is a really passion project here in Alexandria, and that there is an idea already for the redevelopment of it, but we wanted to kind of explore like what could it look like if you use some different incentive packages to really redevelop this building. And so we kind of came up with this business idea of Leslie's Lunchroom. It may sound kind of familiar to some people, a different lunchroom in the area, but Leslie's Lunchroom here is expanding. They're going global. They have such great business opportunities. Everybody knows them for their delicious pie, and they have decided they are going to take over the Weiss and Goldring, create a corporate headquarters here, and also create a new manufacturing facility for their pie production and shipping. And so we kind of are using this case study and this idea for Leslie's Lunchroom. And so just kind of our facts here. They're planning on converting the Weiss and Goldring building that they recently purchased for dual office operations to accommodate their recent growth. They're going to be adding 15 net new jobs at $15 an hour, and it's going to be a typical 40-hour work week. They're investing about $20 million, $12.5 million in the building, and $7.5 million for the equipment. Looking to start in the fall of 2025. And then complete in June of 2027, so about a 20-month construction period. And this is located here at 826 3rd Street downtown, and it has the NAICS code of 311800 for bakeries and other manufacturing. And the two incentives we're also looking at for this would be looking on geographic areas, quality jobs, and potential new markets tax credits. So first and foremost, and what I deal with the most is the federal historic rehabilitation tax credit. This is one of the nation's oldest and most well-loved and used incentive programs that are here for the rehabilitation of historic buildings and located in National Register districts or individually listed in the National Register. Our building here at the Weiss and Goldring is listed in the National Register of Historic Places. And the benefit that's offered there is a 20% federal tax credit on qualified rehabilitation expenditures. That building must be in a National Register district. It must meet a substantial rehabilitation test, which means you're extending the value of the building in qualified costs. It must be income producing and retained as income producing for 5 years. And then the project must be completed according to the federal Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation, which are very stringent standards that ensure the longevity of the historic building, but it's made useful for its new purpose. Examples of the eligible expenditures include hard costs, hard construction costs, some soft costs like engineering fees, architect fees, interest on the construction loans. Non-eligible costs for the actual acquisition costs, anything remote from the building, any enlargements that increase the square footage of the building, and anything on the site itself. There is a 2-step approval process for this program. We work with the State Historic Preservation Office and the National Park Service to ensure that the client can earn these credits. In addition to the federal program, the state of Louisiana offers one of the best and most competitive state historic tax credit programs in the country. I do like to refer to it as the platinum standard. This is something we do very well, and we complete more of these projects in the state of Louisiana than just about any other state in the country. And that's due to the fact that you can stack the federal 20% credit on top of the state 25 to 35% credit, potentially offsetting your project cost by 55%. Just like with the federal program, you go to the State Historic Preservation Office for approval. Unlike the federal program, you only get to spend a minimum of $10,000. So instead of having to meet that large adjusted basis on the federal side, the actual value of the building in most cases, then you do just have to spend at least $10,000. Same eligible costs and expenses, and then, just the state approval process. And again, like I mentioned, these credits are totally stackable. So again, 55% of construction costs could be offset with these programs. And so here's like kind of our economic model when we use our Leslie's lunchroom example. We're looking at about $8 million in qualified building and materials expenses, and about 1.8 in labor and engineering fees. Unfortunately, with the historic rehabilitation tax credit program, machinery and equipment are not included, so we do have to back those out. But basically, on the $9.8 million of eligible construction costs, we're looking at a total earn of $4.4 million in credits. So definitely an impressive number. And so that's the historic rehabilitation tax credit program. I'll go ahead and turn it back over to my colleague, Kevin Murphy, to tell you a little more about the enterprise.
Yeah, so one thing to keep in mind as we go through these programs, it's not like you have to choose between which program. You can apply for all the programs and kind of stack them together. They can make a significant portion of what the project may cost might be able to be paid for. And there's the Enterprise Zone program. It's a great program in Louisiana. It focuses on job creation and areas that potentially may need a little assistance but are worth assisting. So there's two ways you can qualify for it. First is your business be located in an enterprise zone. That's if you saw what Allison's going through the fact pattern, you put in the address, and you can see what is an enterprise zone. Or you can hire what they call targeted hires. And that's someone who lives in an enterprise zone, or so once again, you can either your business be located in an enterprise zone, or you can do a targeted hire. Targeted hires can be someone who lives in an enterprise zone, receives public assistance, lacks basic skills that are usually required to be hired, or unemployable by traditional standards. So this is a way that we kind of reward businesses by taking a chance and kind of offering a job to someone who maybe wouldn't normally get it. The benefit is a $1,000 or $3,500 job credit per employee that you hire. $3,500 if it's a targeted hire, $1,000 if it's just someone who doesn't meet those qualifications. Then also on top of the job credit, you can get 1.5% back on qualified spend or a sales use tax rebate. So looking at our example, the job credit at the number of hires that we plan on doing would be $125,000. That's a cash rebate paid by the state. And if we took the 1.5% investment tax credit, that would be another $255,000. So you're looking at almost $400,000, a little under $400,000 for this program. And all you have to do is hire five people if you have under 50 people statewide. So. The second is a really great program as well. It's called the Restoration Tax Abatement Program. This has to do with property taxes, and it's a way to basically freeze the assessment of the building to the level it was before you invest in all the improvements. So the program requirements is the project must be a renovation. Project must be at least 25% of the valuation of the property. So if the property is worth $10 million, you got to put in $2.5 million to qualify in that example. The project site must be located in an economic development district, downtown district, or historic district or opportunity zone. Some examples of the eligible expenditures are basically anything that's going to stay with the building. So building and materials, labor engineering, machinery and equipment that becomes integral to the structure itself. So not stuff that can kind of move around the building. Example of non-eligible ones, like I just talked about, kind of movable equipment, and then obviously the land itself. So you kind of look at the modeling we did here. So the investment amount is about $20 million. So that's what you basically, we say 90% of the building would qualify. Only about 10% of the equipment would, because obviously that's not going to be part of the building in most cases. And about 90% of labor and engineering. So the $20 million, $12 million qualifies. That's what you would pay property tax on. So since you froze it at a level before the investment, you have to pay on that $12 million. And at the rates here in Alexandria, so it's a $200,000 per year savings for 10 years. The program is initially 5 years and can be renewed. So that $200,000 is something you pay every year and don't have to for the 10-year period. And with that, I'll turn it over to Scott.
Thanks, Cal. So the New Market Tax Credit Program is a program that's been around roughly 20 years. It's a federal program and sometimes has a state copy, but it's a little bit of a misnomer in that it's not a tax credit that a project would receive, but the value of the tax credit is realized when a accredited investor injects a cash subsidy into a project that is located in what is called a low-income community. And roughly, the resulting benefit is roughly 15 to 20% of the total project cost can be available in the form of low interest rate, often forgivable debt. Typically, what needs to occur, as I mentioned, it needs to be in a low-income community, it needs to operate for 7 years. There are costs associated with closing one of these transactions, and you really start to achieve a efficiency of scale at around $7 million. This project needs to have some measurable community impact. Typically, what we see are projects that create accessible quality jobs, increase access to community services, sometimes charter schools. As a bit of an illustration, in the 20-year existence of the program, Louisiana has received $6 billion of this financing. With that, that was received in roughly 280 projects. And in those projects, 20,000 permanent jobs were created. 56 of those projects increased healthcare access to 900,000 patients within the state. So you're going to need some sort of measurable community impact. In our instance, for Leslie's Lunchroom, we used 50 jobs would be created. Those capital expenditures that are used on the project must be spent within the first 12 months after the financing is consummated. And then you do have the ability to look back 2 years to gather prior expenses for those project costs. Some examples of those eligible expenses, because some of these projects are restricted on what you can use or what qualifies for the program. Really, this isn't that restricted. So land, building acquisition, construction costs, equipment purchases, reasonable amounts of working capital. There are restrictions though on what kind of projects don't qualify. It's pretty commonsensical, the ones that don't, no gaming facilities, liquor stores, racetracks. Farming activities are restricted just because there's so many other government subsidies for those. And then there's a restriction on rental real estate. It does allow for mixed-use projects that do have some rental real estate. It just can't be all of the revenue of the company. And then the approval process is a bit different. The CDFI fund of the U.S. Treasury grants this financing capability to entities called community development entities. Every year they apply for this authority. Most recently awarded in September of 2024 was $5 billion to roughly 100 of these entities. And these entities are really the gatekeeper of these funds. These entities apply every year with the federal government and say, hey, if you give me this tax credit creating authority, I will use it to go forth and do these types of projects. And so what happens is once a project decides that it wants to find new market tax credit allocation, it engages us, and we communicate with these community development entities to try to match our project with their business strategy or their community development strategy. So that's how the approval process works. So what does that really look like? So in our example, we have a $20 million project, and again, we're not necessarily restricted on what we can spend our funds on. So all $20 million of that would be an eligible expense. It's a 39% credit, which would create a $7.8 million actual dollar-for-dollar credit. Some investor is going to pay some discounted amount for that. So 80 cents in our example. So that would lead to a gross equity infusion, the cash that gets injected into the project of $6.2 million. So there are costs associated with this. I mentioned the economies of scale that you get at the $7 million mark. So there are legal expenses associated with this. Each one of these CDPs will also have some sort of fee arrangement to keep their lights on in the years maybe where they don't receive any allocation. And then, so ultimately, in our example, we've contemplated about $2.9 million of total cost. So your net upfront benefit is going to be roughly $3.3 million. This is $3.3 million that you have not had to borrow, or excuse me, the project has not had to borrow. So there are interest savings associated with not having to borrow that. In our example, we've hypothesized that 8% interest rate on that. So a total benefit there of about $5.1 million. It's a process. It's not like other kind of statutory credits where you have to fill out this form and then you redeem it. And so our phase process kind of looks a little bit like a snake, but it consists of some research and analysis about the impact of the project plus the low-income community where the project's going to be. And then I mentioned, so that phase 2 is when we go to talk to those community development entities to attract them to our project. Then there's a closing process that lasts 2 to 3 months. And then there's a 7-year compliance period, and then we help the project also unwind at the end of those 7 years. So kind of all in makes sense for a project to have a 6 month to a year runway before they're really going to be up and running. And so it's important to get involved the sooner the better. And so when we stack all of the benefits that we really discussed here today, you can see here that the restoration tax, I think we pro forma it for the full 7 years that is capable of projecting. You're looking at on a $20 million project, half of the value has already been contributed through these 4 or 5 tax credit programs. So it's a huge economic driver for areas, and specifically with the market, maybe a low-income community that needs a little bit more access to capital. And so it's a huge economic driver for these areas. So what's important and what we pride ourselves on is really with all of these programs is how much we know how we can steer clients, how we can steer projects to get the most bang for their buck, to make sure that we are turning over every stone to help them get the most value to their project, because we know how important these projects are to the communities in which they are. And so we know the people, we know the processes, we know how to navigate. We have local presence, Baton Rouge and New Orleans. I'm a guy from North Louisiana, so we know people throughout the state that can help these projects achieve their full scope. Know that we've kind of launched a whole lot at you, and appreciate y'all's time today. Happy to open it up for questions that you might have about this. We've also included our contact information if you think of something after the fact. We'd love to be of assistance in any way we can. I spend most of my day receiving calls from people like you, or people that have been seen projects, and they need to know how this project might work in whatever location. Happy to run whatever mapping tools we need to do to help somebody understand maybe some benefits they might not otherwise know about.
I should have led with this, we met with, members from Ryan, Dr. Lewis and I about a month ago, and they wanted to do an introductory meeting and get a presence here in Central Louisiana. So for those of you wondering what this has to do with us, I invited several executive directors from other entities, Louisiana Central, Chamber, so they can share contact information or, like you said, get more information from us. So this is what this is about.
I do have a question. You were talking about the new market tax credits. I mean, that's basically what the cash flow off of selling those days, $600. Pretty close to the market normally for those. But I did see that with the historic tax credits, and I see credits there. Would you not do the same thing with the historic tax credit? Or how would you do, what's the most efficient?
Thank you. That's a great question. And so with the federal historic tax credit, there is a syndication structure that can be used to monetize the credit, just depending on your,
I'm
different.
guessing most entities like that want to monetize it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great way to go ahead and enter into deals where you can get cash up front to
Right.
support the rehabilitation of the building. And then, yeah, you sign over your credits earned at the end. Now, the great thing with the state of Louisiana's tax credit is that it is fully transferable and certificated. So you can use that once you earn it, or you can sell it, and sometimes it's just depending, in some cases, it's even like $1.01 value, so you're actually getting over the value of your tax credit.
And one thing to keep in mind is, especially, I can't speak to Scott's and Allison's, but how the enterprise zone works in the restoration tax abatement is you have to put a pre-notification in. It's not retroactive, so you can't finish the project and be like, oh, I just realized we didn't apply for this incentive. Put in that advance notification. That kind of sets the date to where any money you spend or any people you hire will be qualified to kind of go with benefit. So it's just important to get out in front before the project starts, or because you might miss the boat. So that's just one thing I wanted to make sure everyone is aware of.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. We really appreciate getting to show you what we do.
Yeah, especially because I mean, really, if you think about these incentive programs, they really can make the difference between the project moving forward or not moving forward. As you saw from our example, in this, we didn't have a favorable fact pattern. We paid for about 50% of the project, but I mean, a lot of times it pays 25% of the project, and that 25% can be whether it's greenlit or not. So it's just, these programs are really important.
Thank you guys.
Just, the Red Cross building right down the street right here, that's part of how they came from that renovation. That building, that was redone years ago. I think the historical tax credits.
First item on the agenda, motion to approve the March 2025 consent agenda. A, motion to approve the February 2025 meeting minutes. B, motion to approve the February 2025 financial statement.
If you'll turn to tab 5, that's where I'm going. And on page 4, you can see no changes in our CD balances at the end of February. Cash in the checking account was $5,849, and the money market was $1,051,457. And then we have receivables. Our total current assets are $1,572. No changes in property and equipment. On page 5, accounts payable was $18,554. And you can see our current year changes in net assets is $80,024. If you'll turn to page 6, you can see our occupancy revenues are $142,553. That's a little bit behind budget, but not too far off. Our operating expenses are about roughly $14,000 less than budget. So we're running pretty well there. And then we have economic development grants of $15,000 year to date and a $200,000 budget. So that puts us with our annual net income through 2 months of $80,000, where we had budgeted only $4. Doing well so far, even though we are a little bit behind budget on revenues. You can see on page 8, while we are behind on budget on revenues, we are ahead of where we were this time last year by about $28,000. So the revenues are doing better than they were in 2024. We are about $35,000 less operating expenses. A lot of that comes in with our move out paying rent and having those overhead costs. And some savings payroll and those type of expenses. And then we are also about $20,000 less than economic development plans through the first 2 months of the year. So last year, in February, we had almost $2,300 loss. This year, we had $1,000 profit. Any questions?
From last month's question regarding the $90,000, journal entries. Did you find out what those journal entries were?
I did, and now I don't remember what they were. I'll send y'all an email on that. I looked, there were some checks, outstanding checks that had never been cashed, in the, I will email it, because I went back and looked at it and sent the information to, Angela, to look up and see, but I don't remember now. That was,
One of them was a quick issue, and one never, checked that loss, and we have the supporting documentation for that. And I believe, the other one, I don't know why, you know, she didn't carry the check. So, but,
I'll just have to see, I did look it up and I completely forgot to send the email, but I'll get that out to y'all shortly.
Are there any public comments? Is there a motion? I'll second. All in favor? Roll call vote.
Dr. Lewis? Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Carroll? Ms. Patel?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan?
Yes.
And Mr. Galloway? Motion passes.
Number 2 on the agenda, motion to approve the GAEDA administrative assistant position description.
Motion.
Second.
Can I ask you a question? When district clerk came in, did the job description for executive clerk, and that was a 0.5 to 0.75 FTE position. That was for the workload of GAEDA. And AG's full-time, now we're talking about a second full-time position for what basically he said was 20 to 30 hours a week is what she had. And doesn't seem.
I wasn't here when I came in, so.
I talked with him about that, because it certainly is not. He said that was just he gave me a long explanation, but he said that was if the board wanted to move us to that. But the workload is not, 20 to 30 hours a week. It's just not. And he agreed with me, and that troubled me also. Because I told him I know the workload, this is executive administrator, and it's not a part-time position. I am literally running on most fuel, trying to do all of this by myself. From the books, to talking with people, to meetings, it's exhausting, so it's not a part-time position. I mean, if you look at just the information that we have here in the setup here, the phone calls that come in, working with the grants, it is not part-time. It wasn't when Mr. Lowe was here, he was up at night, I'm still working, talking with people. It's just, you know, and like I said, I talked to him, and you guys are welcome to, call him, but he gave the Olympic explanation, but he said that's just what was wanting, and that was based on what you guys were talking about then, but he said that's not indicative of what I'm doing and what we are doing as staff.
Any public comment? Motion? Second. All in favor? Aye. Roll call.
Dr. Lewis, Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll, Mr. Bell,
No.
Mr. Morgan,
Yes.
and Mr. Fellows. Motion passed.
Number three on the agenda, motion to authorize the executive director to hire a full-time administrative assistant. Comment? Public comment? Your motion? A motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Roll call.
Dr. Lewis, Ms. McGee,
Yes.
Ms. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll, Mr. Taylor,
No.
and Mr. Morgan,
Yes.
and Mr. Fellows. Motion passes. Excuse me, those two motions will not pass. It has to be a report, a membership of the board, not, majority person. That's right. So, you should have that.
Next item, motion to approve a corporate endeavor with the Explore Alexandria Pineville in an amount not to exceed $15,000 for meals and advertising, marketing, and $5,000 for fireworks shows. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, I had my check mixed up, I apologize. Number four is a motion to approve the March 2025 Economic Development Committee Special Call Meeting. Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Roll call.
Dr. Lewis, Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll,
Yes.
Mr. Morgan,
Yes.
and Mr. Fellows. Motion passes.
Now we'll get to number five. Motion to approve a cooperative endeavor agreement with Explore Alexandria Pineville in an amount not to exceed $15,000 for meals and advertising, marketing, and $5,000 for fireworks shows at the Louisiana Future Farmers of America, the FFA, conference to be held May 30th through June the 2nd, 2025. Any comments?
Hello, everybody. I'm Katie Vanderlick. I know most of you, but I'm the director at Explore Alexandria Pineville, formerly known as the Alexandria Pineville Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. I want to thank you all for your support of FFA. You guys have, prior to my being hired on, you guys were in a cooperative endeavor agreement with the CDD for 4 years. That was $20,000 given on your behalf to this convention, which is a 4-day convention. They're here a little bit longer, but the majority of these people are here for 4 days. There's 1,200 people here. It's one of the larger ones that we have. And we're talking 800 hotel rooms. The economic development it brings in is tremendous. So I want to say thank you for partnering with us over the last 4 years. Now, March 28th, we are presenting for the next 4 years, and we are in competition with Baton Rouge. So I'm here today to ask if you will all consider a cooperative endeavor agreement for the next 4 years, provided that we do win this bid for FFA. They are here in the month of June, and they like to see the collaboration between the organizations here. We actually had a pre-meeting with them, and they like the fact that we partner with GAEDA, and they like the fact that multiple groups, entities want them here. So it's been a very, very productive cooperation with us, and I certainly appreciate that, and I would love to continue that and move forward. And it's definitely a feather in our cap for these entities to come together. I must say, they did bring that up. Does anybody have any questions for me? And just moving forward, if I can say, this is kind of a sidebar. I know that you guys have gone in some different directions, and we are a great resource for that. If you guys go to where you do sponsor bigger things, punt the ball to us for some of these smaller things, some of these smaller events. We have upped our funding for some of these events, and we want to help. We want to help. So if you guys are moving, again, I'm not sure, but if you guys are moving toward bigger events, I know Angela and I have talked about some things before. She's punted a few things over to us that were a little bit smaller. But we're here to help. We want to collaborate with you guys. And obviously, when I look at this agenda, it makes me smile because all of these people want to have their events here. And I think we should all be excited about that. It's great for Central Louisiana, and I want to thank you. All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other public comment? Commissioner? Your motion? Motion. Second. All in favor? Is there a roll call vote? No, sir. Yeah, roll call vote, please.
Dr. Lewis, Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Brother Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll,
Unfortunately.
Mr. McHale,
Same.
Mr. Morgan,
Yes.
and Mr. Fowler. Motion to adopt that.
Item number 6, motion to approve a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Central Louisiana Regional Chamber of Commerce in an amount not to exceed $5,500 for the 2025 program. Are there any comments? Ms. Randolph?
Thank you, again, members. I'm Deborah Randolph, President of the Central Louisiana Regional Chamber, and we deeply appreciate the support, and most of all, we appreciate partnering with GAEDA and look forward to a much more close alliance going forward. And this support will be greatly appreciated for our major programs, and we're looking forward to having you involved with us and attending those. And we're so happy that some of you will be attending the Central Louisiana Day of the Legislature down at the state capitol coming up in April, because it's so important for us to be down there weighing in with our legislators, and also as a major promotion of Central Louisiana and all that we have to offer. So again, we appreciate the support, and if you have any questions, I can answer those.
Are there any questions or comments? Public comment?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll motion.
Second.
All in favor? Need a roll call vote?
Dr. Lewis, Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Brother Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll, Mr. Carroll,
No.
Mr. Morgan,
Yes.
and Mr. Fowler. Motion to adopt that.
Number 7, a motion to approve a grant request with Kent Plantation House in an amount not to exceed $10,000 for advertising and marketing of the tour to Bayou to be held September 19th through the 20th, 2025. Are there any comments, public comments? Is there a motion on the side?
Motion fails.
Number 8, motion to approve a grant request for the manor house in the amount not to exceed $10,000 for meals and advertising and marketing for the AM Pro Tour to be held in April 2nd through the 5th, 2025. Are there any other comments, commissioners, public comments? Is there a motion? Oh, yes, ma'am.
Morning. This is Good Farm, the Executive Director of Manor Health, and we appreciate you letting us come this morning and the past support that we received from you. This is our largest fundraiser for the Manor House. It helps us to continue to feed all those who are in need suffering from food insecurity. Last year, we served over 110,000 meals, which is a 5.2% increase over last year. So we really depend on this tournament. We're very excited about it. This year, we're bringing in women golfers, women pros, and we have Teresa. I'll let her talk a little bit more about it, but what excites us the most, it's a win-win not only for Manor House, but for our great city of Alexandria. We have over 19 countries that are represented in this tournament. We're very excited about that. Teresa Slater is our chairperson. I'll let her talk more about the tournament.
Thank y'all again for having us, and I'm Teresa Slater, I'm a board member of the Manor House, and I chair the golf tournament. Actually, the golf tournament, this is the 21st year that we brought it here in Central Louisiana, in Alexandria, and it's the 9th year for the Manor House, and it's been tremendous, and we're excited to have the women LPGA tour coming in. We'll have about 130 of the pros and their caddies, about 30 to 50, plus families. We have 19 countries that are represented in this tournament that will be here in Central Louisiana visiting our city. And so they will be staying in our hotels, probably 150 to 200 plus hotels. Of course, they'll be here the entire week. They come in early, normally on Sunday or Monday, because they have a couple of practice rounds. And we do the big pro-am, which local teams play with the pro, and everything benefits the Manor House. We're excited to have them coming into our city. They will be here the entire week. The economic impact is tremendous. Staying in our hotels, eating in our restaurants, gas and retail. So it's great for our city and to promote our city. And 19 countries are represented. So we're excited and we appreciate GAEDA. GAEDA has been with us since the entire time having it for the Manor House, which is our 9th year, as I said. So we're excited and looking forward to it. So we appreciate y'all's support and your continued support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, public comments? A motion? All in favor? Roll call vote, please.
Dr. Lewis, Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Reverend Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll.
No, let me explain why. The act that created some legislation, when it says on purpose, this is involved in my attention, so I can't say that I haven't seen. It says our purpose is cooperative economic development between the city of Alexandria and the district in order to provide for renovation, restoration, and development of property in the city of Alexandria and district and pay the cost of capital improvement. I support all of these things. In fact, we very personally support. However, I know that we've been doing this for a while, but I don't think Ed has the authority to rewrite the act that created this. That's why I'm having a problem. That's why I'm looking. Which one is that? This is resolution.
So there's another sentence in that statement.
In the same sentence.
Yeah, that says any other projects as well, in that same one.
With the city of Alexandria.
But then there's a comma. That provide any project and capital improvement related therefore located within the district. Which is another portion to that sentence.
Another district is where our tax authority.
Correct. So it does just about the city in that first sentence.
It just tells us where we're at.
Then the comma, correct. Just read all of it. Just read all of it.
Thank you, Reverend Earl. And we've gone over this over and over again. We've explained it over and over again. You know, you can explain it to someone, but you can't understand it for them. We've gone over this and you're exactly right. Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it, as you are a very new board member, and there have been board members on this board for 10+ years, and for whatever reason, still don't get it. But thank you very much.
And the other thing is, look, this authority created the grant policy so we could give out funding. It does, because we approve grant funding policies and procedures. And to have a document out there that that the board approved, we have not canceled it. That was the vehicle to have people be able, so we could give out money. And that was established by the original, very seasoned board members.
How long have you been on this board?
Long time.
You voted for this in the past, right? Just not reading this?
First time that part. I don't- yes.
Mr. Mattel,
No.
Mr. Morgan,
Yes.
and Mr. Calvin. So motion carries.
Number 9, motion to approve a grant request for the Louisiana Department of Veterans Foreign War in an amount not to exceed $5,000 for the state convention to be held June 26th through 29th, 2025.
Good morning, everyone on the board.
Good morning.
I'm the state commander, quartermaster for the department. And we want to thank y'all for being a grant provider for us. We want to give a special thank out to Ms. Andrews, y'all. Thank you. She always went beyond and above what we call for any information we needed. We in every parish in the state of Louisiana. We could go to any parish that holds our convention, but we choose Elliott for the last 24 years. We always had a good relationship with them. We have over 11,000 members local, 1.3 million members national. When we give the state convention, we have when the state rep to come down. Not only we know them local by Elliott, but they know them by national by Elliott. And we'd like to have y'all to continue, give us the grant so we can further promote Elliott and the state of Louisiana. Thank y'all for your time.
Thank you. Are there any public comments? Motion. Second. All in favor? Roll call vote.
Dr. Lewis, Ms. McGee,
Yes.
Ms. Williams, Mr. Carroll,
No.
Mr. Pell,
No.
Mr. Morgan,
Absolutely, yes.
and Mr. Calvin. Motion carries.
Number 10, motion to approve a grant request for the Grand Lodge of Louisiana, F and AM in an amount not to exceed $5,000 for the 214th Annual Grand Lodge Session to be held April 24th through the 28th, 2025.
There, on Zoom. But we're having this muffled for some reason. Can you guys hear us? Mr. Betts, can you hear us? Mr. Betts, can you hear
Looks like it's muted.
us? Okay. Okay. Grand Lodge, or it might be, Yeah, I'm trying to remember which one. Mr. Vance, who, ask the two people. You're here for which organization? No, you're here from which organization? Okay. I don't think that.
Oh, they would like
Because they
to
have
come
trouble
up.
hearing.
Is there, are there any public comments? Is there a motion on this item?
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay. Where would this be held at? The grand session?
I believe at the, that meeting.
Is it the building and also the holiday inn?
So we talked about it in the meeting, we were the ones that came out with recommendations from the committee.
Is there a motion? Number 11, motion to approve a grant request for the Diocese of Alexandria in an amount not to exceed $5,000 for the Genesis of E Women's Conference, B1, to be held September 12th through the 14th, 2025. Are there any public comments, commissioner comments? Is there a motion? I'll motion.
Second.
All in favor? Roll call, vote please.
Dr. Lewis? Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Chairman Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Carroll? Mr. Carroll?
No.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Number 12, motion to approve a grant request from the Catholic Alpha Psi Southwestern Province in an amount not to exceed $10,000 for the Catholic Alpha Psi Southwestern Province Membership Training Academy to be held April 4th through 6th, 2025. I believe we have someone on Zoom.
Yes. Yes, we asked them. Mr. Horn? And Dr. Benson?
Good morning.
My name is Paul Brown, president for Alpha Incorporated. That represents Mississippi, Arkansas, Texas, Mexico, and great states of Louisiana, of course. So we're excited to come to Alexandria in April 3rd through 6th for our training academy. We so far have about 700 college trained men who will attend this event in Alexandria. We have 3 of our 4 hotels already completely sold out, the room block. We estimate through our own calculations based on the rooms and along with the membership who will be eating and dining in your communities and other retail activities, $1.5 million impact to your city. We're already currently working with the CDB to generate another $10,000 to help bring these young men and ourselves into your community. So we're looking forward to it. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Just to confirm. No problem.
Are there any other questions? Are there any public comments, commissioners? I'll motion.
Second.
All in favor? Roll call vote, please.
Dr. Lewis, Mr. McKee,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Carroll, Mr. Terrell,
Same.
Mr. Morgan,
Yes.
Mr. Calvin.
Number 13, motion to approve
Thank you, Ron.
a grant request from the Knights of Columbus in an amount not to exceed $10,000 for the state convention to be held May 2nd, May 4th, 2025.
Mr. Bennett? Mr. Bennett? Ms. Ward, ready for your presentation?
Yeah, like, I just promised to mention, we've been to Alexandria a few times, and we want to come back to Alexandria here for the second, third. Should be able to do it for 4,500 people. About 400 people staying in rooms and hotels there. So we're hoping to have a decent economic impact here. We're looking to come back to it in Alexandria, and always have.
Any questions, public comments, comments from commission? Your motion?
Motion.
Second. All in favor? Roll call vote.
Dr. Lewis? Mr. McKee?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Carroll? Mr. Terrell?
No.
Mr. Morgan?
Yes.
Mr. Calvin? Mr. Chairman.
And 14 is to hear a discussion regarding the Museum of Arts Cooperative Effort Group.
As we discussed in the committee meeting, they are not having the Plain Air Festival, but they still have like 6 or 7 other events. So the committee recommended that there be no change in the amount of funding that, we need to cooperative effort group. So we're just going to inform the board, the full board.
Are there any questions? Comments? Number 15 is to hear discussion regarding future grant funding.
I just, when we had the staff meeting earlier in the month, I raised the question, based on the budget, we had budgeted $1.2 million, of which about 900,000 of that was earmarked, for the White Old Bridge building. That was an estimate, because we don't know exactly how much the city is going to expend in the current year. And then we had budgeted about 300,000 for, grants. And then when I saw the list of grants that was on the agenda, I just asked the question, if we're going to continue to do grant funding, we need to consider a budget amendment. And we are definitely going to have to set a cap on that because of the commitment we have to the city for that project already. So I just wanted to bring that up to the full board, as a, just a point of reference where we are. It's already the year. And if we wanted to make changes, then we need to consider that, maybe have further discussions on that, from the budget standpoint.
What amount do you recommend that the cap, I'm looking at what we're doing right now?
Well, I mean, that's a crystal ball question to some extent. I'm assuming we have made, what we budgeted in revenues. I would think we could possibly, grant, another 250,000 possibly. But here again, we don't know the timing of when the city's, gonna ask for the money. So I mean, part of that, we do have funds in reserve, which we have committed to spend, we just don't know the timing of it. So that's kind of the hard part right now, of adding additional grant funding into the mix of things. don't know, you know, if the city's gonna need $1 million this year or 500,000 this year. So, you know, the conservative CPA in me is saying we just need to consider this going forward, and not put the board into a cash flow bind, which is, this is 100% what it will be, the cash flow. So I just want to bring that point up as we move forward through the year.
Any other comments, Commissioner, on this issue?
I have a comment regarding grant funding.
Go ahead, sir.
I have two comments, actually. I think this board is going to continue with grant funding. I think the application needs to be revised to fit all entities that are being funded. I do not believe any entity should be exempt from filling out that application and qualifying for that same application. Also, that application needs to have a full board disclosure of any entity requesting funding. This board needs to know who sits on the opposing boards for any conflicts. Further, there's an inequality in funding when it comes to economic impact. And I'm going to use examples of Louisiana Future Farmers Association, Manor House, and Kappa Alpha Site. The funding request or the funding amount we're considering is far below the economic impact. And their economic impact is what I consider significant. However, at the same time, they're funding organizations that have no economic impact or very minimal economic impact at the same dollar values. There's an inconsistency there, and it needs to be fixed.
Any other comments? Public comments?
You're saying we should revisit the amounts?
Yes, in ratio to economic impact, and it should be more of an equality type of situation, like if a particular group is producing, say, $500,000 in economic impact, that group versus the group that's only generating $30,000 of economic impact should not be getting the same type of funding.
Any other discussion? Number 16, to hear any public comment. G, executive director comment? Any commissioner comment? Legal counsel?
Yes. Going back to the section 5 that was brought up earlier, the language in that section grants GAEDA broad discretion in collaborative efforts with public and private sectors, stakeholders that benefit the city's economy, as long as the projects are within the district and contribute to the city's economy. The purpose of that entire provision is to allow GAEDA flexibility in fostering economic development. And I understand it was brought to your attention, as you said, that this cannot be done. I'm sure it was presented to you after all this time by someone with a particular interest in securing funding for their own initiative. However, the intent of that provision is to allow GAEDA flexibility in fostering economic development and economic growth, whether it's through capital improvements, whether it's partnerships with political subdivisions or collaborations with private corporations. The intent is to facilitate projects that generate positive outcomes for Alexandria. And we've been over this, we've gone over this several times, and if I need to say it every meeting, then so be it. And I thank you again, Reverend Williams, for bringing it to everyone's attention. Clearly, you've gotten it, and you've been here 2 weeks, but thank you.
Just note to the public, the ordinance that we're talking about, it's all on the website. And you'll see it in section 5. So I'm the type of pastor, so I'm not just gonna spitball what I think or what I'm interpreting. I've got a higher calling to answer to, which is Jesus. So if you look at section 5 has all of the language that Commissioner Carroll said. It does talk about engaging with the city. But it also says any public or private entity in that same state that we're able to do the things that they've been doing prior to even being here. So let's just, I may not say a lot, but I'm going to research and make sure I'm voting the right way and doing the right thing. So that is on our website, and 2003 was the date of the ordinance. So you're able to look at it yourself as well.
Mr. John, any council comments?
No,
Any public comments or questions pertaining to today's agenda? Therefore, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you guys for coming.
I'm actually, that's all I say. That's not the right one. That's why you're not reading the right one. That's not one that's bad. This is, that's one that's bad. This is signature of the mayor. That's,
we did the budget.
they amended it into that section 5. They did right here. March 21st.
We started doing more approvals for that.
So do your research. So they amended that, and then they amended.
We're closer to it.
They just recently modified that. They amended this, subject. You need to read this statement. You highlight what you wanted to highlight, but you didn't highlight this. This defines what you can do.
It may have been because quick focus on it's in a prior period. You go back and try to change.
That makes sense. I think you're right enough to vote yes to it. All of a sudden you voted no, which is fine.
It's not because I'm doing it, it's just right.
We're saying you've been on board this many years and don't
If you go
read
in
it.
and
Right there. And so, legal counsel, based on justify what GAEDA is. That's it right there, and the rest of the public funding and the grant funding that you guys had years ago. And the process allows you to. You really understand that. And understand the funds. You wouldn't even vote for $1.25 million. That makes no sense.
Well,
You don't have.
we can't, we normally don't do that, but I mean, that's what y'all want, we can definitely do.
Correct. That's great idea. Great. But you don't drown your own funds. Sure, that's what yeah. That's like.
And we probably do have that in our documentation.
But just read that. Section 5. Yes,
You will.
Oh, no, it gets looked at by ours every year. I mean, it's not a matter of not being transparent. We, I have 100% confidence. There's nothing wrong with it. That's 100%. I mean, it's not a matter of individual line items, everything happened. I do have yeah, no, I mean, that's what y'all want. It's an order to work with that. She's not gonna perform anymore. I have it. It's not a matter of trying to hide anything. We go through it in the year. I'd love to know the answer to that. I mean, I had one check on my desk for $7.92. Got lost.
Okay, yes.
Headed over to
Yeah, no. Yeah, no.
Okay. But I live in that. Second one, 136. Okay. All right, look forward. All right. Appreciate it, man. All right.